This week on Sorare Down Under. Let's stop talking about the Premier League. No one cares about the Premier League.
I've got a Burak Yilmaz poster in my room, and let me tell you, the ladies like it.
When you think of the threshold that son has brought in for you, it'll make you love that child just a little bit more.
The carpet, he has hurt me in the past, but I'm ready to hurt again.
He's a changed man. He's Turkish now.
G'day, mates. Welcome back in. The boys are back. The city is alive in Melbourne at the moment because the Champions League is here. And not the Champions League you may think. No one cares about how, Atletico Madrid are doing. How's Arsenal faring in their first time returning to the competition? Who cares?
Gold jacket, green jacket, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Oh! Boring. We've got the AFC Champions League, baby. Alistair, I tell you what, getting out of work was an absolute nightmare. Amy Park, absolutely buzzing. The Ventforet Kofu fans, there was about 3 of them already lined up. Ooh, burn! 3 hours before kickoff. A Japanese Div 2 team coming to Australian shores, Melbourne City in action. What's not to like? It's been a very exciting past couple of weeks. We've had people asking us, Alistair, they're saying, boys, you're from Australia. I suddenly have some bloody utility. It's incredible.
Yeah, we had the great John Nellis sliding into our DMs the wee hours of this morning, asking if his unique Aziz Behich, was going to get a look in this weekend. I think we told him that, yes, he will be starting. High stakes there. We're dealing with a unique. Then we either have completely ruined his weekend or we've made it for him. But hey, it's our time to shine, baby. Sorare Down Under, the AFC Champions League. It's all anyone's talking about. Like you said, your UEFA Champions League, old news.
The reason why I want to talk about the AFC Champions League, Ulster, is, you sort of spoiled one game this morning when you'd let me know that one of my players had conceded in the last minute, but I actually haven't seen or found out any of the results from the Champions League in Europe yet. And something I'm wanting to do later after we finish recording this episode. So let's not talk about that Champions League. Well, let's not give any spoilers away anyway. But definitely what I want to talk about is, like you said, Sorare is in Australia. It's been pretty cool the past week or so. People are putting out their lineups. These are A-League players that are going into lineups. They've got some utility at last.
I know. I don't know about you. Well, you don't have any A-League players in your gallery, do you? Or
Danny Vukovic.
Danny Vukovic. Okay, well, maybe you haven't experienced this thrill yet, but when I logged into my lineup builder and I saw that Melbourne City logo pop up, it felt good. It felt tasty. It felt good deep inside my loins. So,
you're too excitable. Drank.
I'm super excited. I'm going to have the game on tonight and cheer on my boys, and it'll be fun to see how they fare on a Sorare front. Like, I think I've got an Aziz Behich, Tolgay Arslan, and got one other player. Can't remember who it is, but yeah. Finally these players that I picked up for a couple of bucks a few months ago have finally come good, so I'm excited.
Gotta figure out how to make money on this. I really want to.
Did you pick them up after they'd gone to A-League, or had you got them from previous competitions?
No, I picked as soon as they announced that they were signing with the A-League. Obviously, their prices plummeted, and I swooped in and picked up a few. And I know there's quite a few people on the kind of Australian Sorare community notice boards on Twitter that have picked up many more than I have. So I'm sure they're having a great time right now. But yeah, it kind of went through a phase of just picking up any player that announced that they were coming to the A-League and had a card.
Do you remember someone on Twitter sent us a screenshot of all the Danny Vukovic's they owned? And it was like a Fred Emmings kind of collection. Like, they had countless limiteds, rares. I think they had a super rare in there. It was kind of scary, not gonna lie.
Yeah, so pour some out for that guy, because I'm pretty sure that their game isn't covered. I don't think they're in the Champions League. I think they're in the AFC Cup. Maybe that's like qualifying for the AFC Champions League, and in which case, if they get through, I'm not sure of the coverage implications, but because I thought that we were going to be able to use our Vukovic's this weekend.
Disappointed!
This midweek, sorry. And they do have a fixture, but I looked at it little more closely, and it's the AFC Cup. So it doesn't look like it's covered, but maybe someone out there can correct us because, yeah, it would be a real shame for that guy not to at least get to use, one of his Danny Vukovic's.
I mean, it makes sense, though, because Melbourne City, they're versing a J2 team, which, I mean, say what you will, but Central Coast Mariners, they're playing a Malaysian team, Terengganu FC, then they're versing like Bali United. I mean, this is where, like, if it was
Bali
covered
United,
on Sorare, Bintang United is what they should be called. But I mean, that's when you'd be licking your lips if that game was covered, because that has to be like a 10-0 result, right?
Like I said, it's always a funny one seeing Australian A-League clubs come up against these kind of random clubs you've never heard of in Asia, because often they lose and you're like, oh, I thought we were better than that. So let's not get too excited. Let's not lick those lips too much. You never know. The Malaysian league might be stronger than we think.
Nick, mana? No.
And this is just sums up the A-League, Alster. Is last week, Melbourne City travelled to South Australia to verse one of their local clubs, just a local South Australian football club, where their social media admin's clearly run by Karen at the canteen. It was the most salty and edgy game day tweeting I've ever seen in my life. Like, I think when they conceded a penalty, it was like, ooh, a gush of wind came through and down they went. Penalty with the eye rolling emoji. And then post-match, they posted the empty seat with the reserve sign being like, Melbourne City, where are you? Our volunteers have been cooking since 5 a.m. and you left early. This is a disgrace. And it was just, that sums up Australia football. Melbourne City won by 1 goal in the last minute of play. Like, that should be a 7-0 drubbing. But, here's the Karen FC almost beating a professional outfit.
Well, it's the England has the FA Cup, and teams go on just these incredible runs in that. What's ours called? The FFA Cup?
Maybe.
Slightly,
I think it's called Australia Cup.
Just a slight variation.
It's called Australia Cup.
Oh, it's called the Australia Cup now. Okay. It used to be called the FFA Cup or something, but obviously must have got in trouble for that one. But yeah, it's just one of those amazing competitions where you've got the best of the best in the A-League coming up against, Moorabbin United, with Dave coming straight from the tuck shop and on to play on the wing. Like, it's what football's all about.
Yeah. Now we'll touch on the A-League very shortly. Obviously, a lot has changed since our last A-League episode. Pretty much everyone that we talked about has left the league, is probably no longer covered or not doing very well. But Alistair, before we do that, obviously, international window has come and gone. Very frustrating time for a lot of Sorare users, but also a very profitable time for some if you played your cards right and had the right players in the right positions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's obviously an international break coming up in October as well. So is it October? I think it might be October. So potentially there's opportunity there to plan again. Obviously, we hesitant to advise anyone to plan too far ahead, but October, hopefully there's no kind of massive collapse between now and then. October, November, it's in a couple of months anyway. And I think there's lots to be learned. Whoever's playing San Marino, whoever's playing Liechtenstein, stack them up, and now's probably the time to do that. So, if you've got a bit of cash lying around and you want to take a bit of a punt on trying to flip some of these players, now might be the occasion, but
And I mean, they call it the World Game, but let's take a second and show some appreciation and throw out some feeling for these poor national outfits that just got absolutely smashed and had their pants pulled down over the past couple of weeks. I mean, we had Georgia, 7-1 loss. Latvia conceded 5 against Croatia. Bolivia 5-1 to Brazil. Cyprus lost 6-0 to Spain. And my boy Karel Metz in a tough 5-0 loss for Estonia against Belgium. I mean,
look how they massacred my boy.
Surely at this point they're going to stuff this. I'm going to go back to my random league in the middle of Europe and I'm never going on the international stage again.
Oh, look, I mean, you think about that Georgian team, that 1 goal, everyone's off their head. Everyone's having a great time. So, I think all these guys, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure they're all playing in various leagues around the place, but I'm sure it doesn't matter if you're getting beaten 7-1, you get to chuck on the national jersey and go out there and, try and break a few legs. It's
There's nothing like going studs up into Messi to really make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's pretty ironic, isn't it, Alistair? Australia has one good World Cup, and all of a sudden we're making fun of other national outfits. We are still a joke as a country on the soccer pitch. So
harsh but fair. Harsh but fair.
But what else have you made? Obviously, the Cap 240, the new layout, I guess you could call it, has arrived.
Yeah, new competition kind of rules. So got to hit 280 now, and you get your XP is now applied and captain bonus. So, I still stand by what I said a few weeks ago when they announced it. I think they'll change it to 300 pretty soon. I think 280 will be way too easy to hit. You just think about, for anyone who's got any kind of depth, if you've got some players that are sitting up around that 7, 8, 9%, by the time you factor in an extra 25% for your captain, I think it'll make it a lot easier. So, as someone who was opted out of the threshold at the last second this weekend, fuck you, Opta. Opta. I'm all for these changes because I do feel it's going to be a bit easier. What about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've hit it like once in the past 3 months. So any kind of change is good. I thought it was very ironic that you texted me being like, haha, 4-man threshold. How good. Easy done. And then a day later, your hopes just absolutely dashed.
I mean, come on. So I was on track for a ripper score in Cap 240 Super Rare. All my boys were banging. Daniel Wass is back, baby. And then, sure enough, Nikola Storm pulls up sore in the warm up. He's out with a precautionary resting. It's like, okay, it's right. Look, we've got a shot at the 4-man Threshy here, and the 4-man Threshy is, it's a rare beast, but it only comes along every so often, and it's a proud moment to hit the 4-man Threshy. And I feel like Opta should have taken that into consideration. They should have been like, look, we can take a couple of jewels off Jordy Van Leberg, sure. But this guy's going for the 4-man Threshy. Let's cut him a little bit of slack. But no.
Well, yeah. It's actually, Alistair, do you remember this? Now, this is a massive trip down memory lane. I missed out on a threshold, I think it was, or a reward. This is probably my first 3 months of playing Sorare, and I messaged you, and I said, Alistair, is it any chance that Sorare have bumped me down these points so I miss out on the threshold? And you said, mate, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think they've got bigger fish to fry than, worrying about a guy who has a $500 gallery. Do you remember that, or is that just me?
I don't remember that. I mean, it may, if that is the case, it would have been before I knew that Opta was a thing, because, I'm sure that my logic at the time was Sorare aren't going to punish you, mate, but as we now know very well, Opta will punish you, no problem. They're heartless bastards. Fuck you, Opta. So I don't know. I don't remember that, but it could be true. Who knows? I think that might just be the recurring nightmare that you have every other weekend, and you're just confusing real life with dream time. Yeah,
it's like how people will. Yeah, they'll subconsciously change their memory to alter what makes them feel good about themselves.
Exactly. So, forgetting Opta, let's not talk about Opta ever again. You've been doing a bit of thinking. You've been rubbing your hands together, looking forward to getting back into limiteds. You may have lost your mind slightly, but look, I'm all here for it. We talked a little bit last week about how, we've both reached a point, I think, where we've just kind of given ourselves up to the Sorare gods. We know we've got a good squad, but we're just not hitting the right buttons at the right time. We're both happy to just roll our teams out now and focus a little bit more on having fun. And you're doing that with some limiteds. Everyone wants to know, who are you buying?
Yep, I'm ready to hurt again. Also, I'm ready to delve myself into the Premier League. I mean, it's the only league that you can get really good quality and lots of easy access to. I'm already got my foot in the door. I've got a keen interest. Obviously, a big Liverpool fan. Obviously, Angie's taken the helm at Tottenham. I've been watching a few of their games. There's a couple of players I just really like, and as we've sort of discussed in previous podcasts, there's all these guys that I've always wanted to get. Like, I think they're great players. They're in a great league, but I can't make the jump financially up in the rares. So I'm thinking, why not get myself maybe a defensive stack and an attacking stack and a couple of players from the Premier League. So similar to how I got into the MLS, where I'll start watching Portland Timbers games, and coincidentally, I've watched more Minnesota games in the past 2 months now that I have a Reynoso than I ever have before. I'm assuming that logic will carry through and I'll start watching other teams rather than just watching Liverpool every week.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I like that a lot. So
Now,
what are you thinking? Have you got any players in mind?
Yeah, this might make people pull their hair out, but what I'm thinking, Alistair, my logic. So I'm thinking I'm going to go a defensive stack of one team and then an attacking stack of the other.
Groundbreaking.
Dude, you're a genius.
Yeah. I just don't think that a full 5-man stack... Obviously, every team has their day once in the season, but I think for more consistency, going a more defensive team with a more attacking team is going to be my golden ticket. I'm thinking a Chelsea defensive stack. I remember we did Moon or Dune a couple of weeks ago, and I said, Roberto Sanchez to Chelsea, what do you think? And you said, I don't care. Well, I really like Sanchez. Always have.
Okay.
And I think even though they've had such a bad start, they've only conceded like maybe 8 goals or something like that, which is like 3 or 4 more than the likes of Arsenal and City and co. I think of pairing him with a Thiago Silva, super consistent, or any of those defenders anyway. And then this is where things get fun. I'm thinking
you're not concerned about Silva being 105 years old.
He's like 0.002 or something. So even if his legs fall off, what's the loss?
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And for attacking, I mean, I already watched a lot of their games anyway because I've got a soft spot for Tottenham. But I mean, now that Ange is at the helm, when Tottenham win, they win big. I wouldn't mind a Tottenham stack, or is that just copying you?
I want to be like you.
No, it's not copying me, really. I mean, I need to kind of rejig my Tottenham stack. I've got my sights kind of set on a James Maddison super rare at some point, not right now, but I would love to stack Heung-min and Maddison. I like the look of Maddison out there at the moment. So, so I'm copy away, mate. You got to do whatever your little heart wants. I mean, there's a few players to choose from there at Spurs at the moment. Who are you thinking in particular? Who do you like the look of?
Yeah, so I had a little look before we started recording at different teams, and I just think Tottenham have got a really high L15 average across the team, because it's funny, there are some teams where they've got their one-star player, but on the Sorare front, they all kind of share the points a little bit. I think a Maddison, 100%. I think I totally agree with your logic. I think a Heung-min Son is still super undervalued, especially in the limiteds as well.
Yep.
And hey, maybe I get a Richarlison off the bench. Get a little Ange pep talk. Mastermind.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, Ange knows best. That was pretty incredible. That kind of whole storyline last week of Richarlison feeling down in the dumps and then coming on and scoring a goal and getting an assist to win the game, and getting pushed forward in front of the fans. It's Ange knows how to get the boys behind the team, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, look, I like the Tottenham stack. I don't know too much about Chelsea, but I know they've got some pretty good fixtures coming up. So yeah, you thinking full Tottenham stack, or you thinking maybe chuck in a few of your kind of other favourite players? Your James Ward-Prowses, and I know you're a big Matoma fan. Like, what are you thinking?
So funny you should mention. So the other teams I was contemplating was a Brighton stack. I know, is it Gross?
Yep.
The midfielder. He's been scoring really well. The odd decisive. Obviously, Matoma would be great. And then West Ham are also pretty high scoring. They're scoring a lot of goals. Obviously, again, Ward-Prowse is probably a sell hay, but maybe in the limiteds it's not as bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's where I'm sort of going at. And then maybe what are your thoughts on buying a full stack? So maybe buying a full Spurs stack for when they play Luton Town, once a year or twice a year, sorry.
Yep.
And then having a defender and a goalkeeper from Chelsea, so that on the game weeks where Tottenham do have a really tough fixture, could potentially interchange and play the matchup a little bit. Obviously, that means a little bit more upfront investment.
Yep.
But I feel like that could be a good play.
Yeah, I think Tottenham, I mean, seems like Ange Ball is going to be very attacking. So I think even against good teams, they should score some goals. So I think you can't really go wrong with that. And I think, yeah, you want to have a pretty good balance of a squad. Ideally, I guess, if you can run two teams, one which might be just kind of leftovers, maybe in a 240 or a 270, and then one which is your main squad each week. I mean, I do really like the look of the Tottenham keeper, Vicario. He looks solid so I don't think you can go too wrong there. And, well, we'll talk a little bit about Christian Romero in a bit, but he's actually looked really solid to the start of the year as well. So, yeah, I mean, if you've got the budget to pick up a squad of, say, 10 players, maybe try and pick up like a cheap goalkeeper to rotate with Sanchez, depending on, the lineup, the matchups. I don't know. I guess it comes down to your budget, but yeah, I'm all for it.
Because I just feel like knowing limited, obviously we talk about it's hard to win in Sorare. It makes no sense to go into limited where it's harder to win. But I think what's more likely is because you can buy the good players. If you hit a good score, you will win. But I feel like you're a lot more likely to win those shittier guys, which I think is why I need a 240 to go alongside with it. Because a lot of those rewards I win, I think, will be guys that are going to be 240 kind of players.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure pick yourself up 2 keepers so you can always run that 240 team. Yeah, for sure. I think you probably got a few kind of scrap limiteds left over as well in your gallery that you could probably chuck in the meantime.
Yeah, there's a few guys in Saudi, a few guys playing off in random parts of Europe that might come back in as well. You never know.
Hey, with limiteds, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, let's stop talking about the Premier League. No one cares about the Premier League. People, people are sick of it. It's done. The Premier League's day. Old news. Let's talk more about the A-League, baby.
Can somebody please tell me when is A-League?
That's what people really want to hear. Simon, you are our resident A-League expert. I must admit, I haven't been following it that much, on account of not really being into soccer until, pretty recently, thanks to Sorare. This season, I'm much more likely to be invested, watch a few more games on the weekend, get behind the Melbourne City boys. Obviously, I've got a few Sorare cards there, so we'll be hoping that we can get some license news from Nicholas coming up. But tell us what's going on. Like, what's happening in the A-League? Have we had any big signings? Have we got any new international players? What's going on?
Yeah, so it has been quite the off-season for the A-League. I mean, as we've mentioned a few times, if you've listened to previous podcasts, the A-League is kind of that level between the lower European leagues and then some of those farmer leagues of, your Malaysias and Bali Uniteds and such. This season, obviously, we saw such a big departure list of high-profile players. I mean, we had Jordan Boss initially break the transfer record for his $2 million deal to Westerlo, and then Marco Tilio tops that. I think it was like $2.5 million to Celtic. And then, of course, your man, Jaden or Jason Cummings, whatever you want to call him, Alster, after winning the league for the Central Coast Mariners, off he went to the Indian League. So he's gone. And then
the
Craig
Indian
Goodwin.
League, brilliant.
Yeah, how good. But these are all guys that we were like, when we did our initial A-League scouting, we're like, these are the top guys. Pretty much the top 5 players in the league have left, which is huge. And most recently,
Yikes.
Craig Goodwin leaving Adelaide United, which is huge. Obviously, he would have been the go-to guy if Sorare ever did onboard the A-League. He was the main man at Adelaide United, did everything, took all pens, took sets. And a funny little segue off that, Ulster, is the way the club has handled that. So that happened very late in the transfer window. Basically, he's decided to leave for Saudi. It's obviously been a last-minute deal. And now this is a man that is loved by the fans, loved by the club, like Craig Goodwin, the Socceroo. He was everything for Adelaide. He left. They put out one video saying a message from Craig, and it was him just being like, look, I'm leaving. That's it. There was no graphic. There was no video. There was nothing on socials. So I'm assuming someone high up's gone,
Salty.
Come on, get out of here.
Yeah, got the salty attitude towards Craig, but I just couldn't believe that. Like, your captain leaving a club, and you're not even going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. So, what does that say about the A League, Simon? Are we looking? Are things going downhill? Are there any? Is there anything positive on the horizon?
Well, look, I mean, there's a few little tidbits of positivity coming through. Obviously, with all those players leaving, we've seen a lot of players come, and with Melbourne City in particular losing a lot of their international guys. My boy Richie van der Ven, he only lasted one season. He went off to the Swiss League, I think it was. Devastating. But they've brought in some really good guys to replace him. I think the main one, Tolgay Arslan, he'll be in action for Melbourne City tonight. That's a big one. I think from all reports, he's been crushing it in the preseason, like main man kind of attitude. He took a pen in their latest Australia Cup clash against that random South Australian team. So I feel like he's the new Craig Goodwin, potentially. And your boy, Ulster, actually, Matthew Leckie, injured, so he's out for the start of the season. Andrew Naboot, also season-ending injury there, so they brought in Leo Natel from Corinthians. So it's all happening at Melbourne City.
Okay.
Leo Natel came in from like a young Brazilian talent, I think.
How do you spell that?
Natel.
See if he's got a card.
He should do.
He does not have a card.
Well, he's not going to have one anyway. He's in the A-League. But then also, I think, if you're looking for another midfielder, Florent Berengay also left Melbourne City. He's gone across to Brisbane Roar. I think Berengay won Melbourne City's Player of the Year the season prior to the last one just gone. Talk about the eye test. Had to do a match report on him every week. He is actually a really good player, coming from the French league. That kind of guy, like really good, like passer, interlinking of play. And Brisbane Roar kind of suck. And you talk about a main man, Ulster. I feel like Florent Berengay is going to go there and like he'll be the guy because he was, to be fair, the poor bloke was coming off like a serious knee injury, coming into a Melbourne City team which was deemed the greatest of the past decade. So they'll just bring him off the bench, which is probably not worthy of his talents, I guess you could say. And then to finish off, Ulster, is a Melbourne victory stack. So Daniel Alzani, remember him? Yeah.
Love a bit of Alzani.
Yeah, so he was a bit of a product, I think, 2018. That World Cup, he was like coming off the bench, had some really good performances, was playing really well for Melbourne City. He went to, I think, MacArthur, and he's back at Melbourne Victory now. He's had a full preseason. I was in the gym with him the other day, next to him on the bike. He's looking fit. He's looking ready to go. So I feel like he's one that, like, if he hits his straps, if they get like 70, 80% of the former Daniel Alzani, he'll be great.
Wow. Okay. You cannot get more kind of close to the source information than Simon on a treadmill next to the players. So, wow.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if the A-League ever does come on board, you will need to immediately start a Patreon where you basically just share facts from the treadmill.
Yeah, I'll be like, I was doing some barbells next to De Silva yesterday. He was looking pretty strong. He's probably in for a big AA performance this weekend.
Yeah, so you won't be able to give anyone any kind of insight as to, tactics or Sorare strategy, but you will be able to give people bod updates as to how sexy the players are looking.
Yeah, and maybe I can, for an extra fee, charge, I can take some sneaky pics, like a bit of proof.
When
Daniel Alzani's doing his
lapel camera.
Yeah, when he's doing his calf raises, I could be like, yep, left calf looking good, looking strong.
I'm looking forward to that.
Now, so just quickly to wrap up the A-League discussion, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do think it's interesting because it's an unknown league to a lot of people. You touched on him just before. The impact that Ange Postecoglou has had down in Australia and for Australia football is massive.
Absolutely. As a Spurs fan, I'm stoked to have him on board. I must admit, I'll be honest. When Ange was the Socceroos coach, I didn't think too much of him. I wasn't, overly stoked with his results. But that was, dealing with a pretty rough Socceroos team that was kind of, all of our best players had retired. So maybe I was judging him a little too harshly. But yeah, he seems like, it seems like he's got a good culture going on over there. And I think for Australian football, it's always, our spikes in our kind of footballing talent always come about when we've got someone who's in the Premier League, who's in the limelight. Harry Kewell kind of started it all, Tim Cahill. We haven't really had anyone that's kind of really kicked off, but now with Ange back in the Prem, I think it's should be a really good thing for Aussie football.
Yeah, and just like the way he's handling the media, like he's saying mate in every second sentence, every second word almost.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
And like he's really like playing on that whole Australian sort of, not alter ego, I guess that's him, that's how he is, but like that real relatable, just everyday kind of guy. And I mean, we saw it in that Richarlison story where he's talking about how professional footballers think that they're untouchable when they're not actually. And I just think the way that he's doing it, and that everyone in England, the general gist that we're getting over in Australia, that everyone really, they love Ange Postecoglou. He's the feel-good story at the moment. I mean, it was the same at Celtic. Everyone loved him at Celtic. And I just feel like that's really smart because knowing Tottenham, they're probably going to fuck it up somewhere along the line. They're probably going to start playing really bad.
Yeah.
And he's going to need like that crowd and popularity to get him through, where in the past, like Mourinho, Conte, they're kind of dicks to reporters. So as soon as the team stop playing well, the reporters bite back.
That's a very good point. And I mean, Spurs love a strong start, and then a strong fade away. So I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. But yeah, you're right. Having someone who's a little bit more likable might just, even if it doesn't necessarily help, even if the results kind of peter off a little bit, I think the problem with the last two coaches is that the players just kind of gave up midway through. And if you've got coaches that aren't necessarily like the favourites of the playing group, then things can just keep getting worse and worse. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing how the season plays out for Big Ange. Let's get him on the pod. Sorare Downunder exclusive.
I don't mind that. Don't mind that.
Oh, my darling, my sweet darling baby boy.
I want you to have something of mine before I die.
What is it?
I want you to have my Sorare collection.
Oh.
It's worth well over 12 Ethereum, and there's a Nikola Storm card in there that I'm pretty sure is, at last valuation, was about 556 euros.
Okay.
But promise me one thing.
Yes, darling, anything.
Promise me you'll enter them into Cap 240 Super Rare every weekend. For as long as you live.
Oh, I promise.
Promise me!
I promise! Darling, what's the password?
The password is...
Yeah.
The password is...
The password, darling, the password!
Young men, son.
5 hours later.
Okay, just let me log in.
Okay, Heung-min son.
Fuck.
Now, Alster, we've got some pressing matters to deal with. We've had some Sorare Downunder fans. They've mailed in, the old-fashioned, attach it to the bottom of a nail, fly it into the Sorare Downunder headquarters for us to read out loud on the podcast, and I guess for us to give some advice.
Help me, Sorare Downunder. You're my only hope.
Okay, alrighty. I'll see how I can help.
All right, so first one. Dear Sorare Downunder, my wife won't let me wake up at 3 a.m. to watch K-League games, but I really want to put my players to the, in brackets, eye test. Any advice on how to get the wife on side? Kind regards, Sorare Downunder listener.
Okay, did he leave a name?
No, just it was anonymous.
Oh, anonymous. Okay, an anonymous K-League fan. Yeah, look, that's tough. I mean, we've all been there. We've all rolled over in the middle of the night to check our Sorare data notifications and, get an elbow in the ribs from the wife. It's tough. I think with the K-League, look, when I have, a sports team that I want to follow and, the wife's not on board, what I try and do is find the hottest player on the team or find the hottest player in the league and, start just, leaving some photos around, leave your laptop open, and with Nikola, you could, leave it just a sneaky topless shot of Cho Gyu-sung, a little bit of a K-pop star looking guy, leave that on the coffee table, might just catch her eye, catch her interest, if you can start to kind of, get her in through the attraction side of things, then she might, who knows, she might be getting up at 3 a.m. to watch them with you, and then let's see where it goes from there. You know what I'm saying?
We're talking about sex, right?
Right.
Okay, I like it. All right, so keep moving forward. We've got plenty to get through. The next one's from Keith in Brisbane's southern suburbs. Keith says, my friends keep saying it's irrelevant and I'm boring. Every time I bring up Sanfrecce Hiroshima's strong end-of-season form, should I find new friends?
Well, first of all, thanks for your letter, Shane. And short answer is yes. You should find new friends. If your friends don't Sanfrecce, then your friends aren't worth $1, So, look, it's one of the first things I ask new people that I meet, networking events, on the street. If I run into them, I'm saying, do you know Sho Sasaki? Do you know Hayatawa Araki? Have you watched the J-League highlights on YouTube? If they say no, I cut them out of my life, I move on. And I've done the same thing to existing friends as well. I send them a quick text. I say, how do you rate Kazuki Osako? Do you think he'll be the future future Japanese keeper? And if they say no, again, cut them out.
You've got to be ruthless. Okay. We've got Barbara from Perth, Ulster. Barbara from Perth wants to know, I'm 10 weeks along in my pregnancy. I've already got 3 children. My eldest son, Ladino, my middle child, Sven Coombs II, and my youngest, Muhammad. They're about to get the sibling. What should I name my 4th child? It's Barbara from Perth.
Barbara. Spicy Barbara, we shall call you. Look, that's a good question. Yeah, Ladino, that's a strong name for an eldest, obviously. Sven Coombs II, I can only assume she's got some kind of Nordic background. Muhammad, that's a really is that a different father? I don't know quite what's going on there. But look, 4th child, I would probably just leave it up to the Sorare gods. I'm not sure if you play Sorare, Barbara. I can't really tell from your question whether you do or not, but if you do play Sorare, if it was myself, I would probably put out a Cap 240 lineup, and whoever's top scores in that lineup for the weekend, I'd probably just call them that. So, for me, it would probably be something like Daniel Wass or maybe Xavier Mercier. Mercier is a middle name probably. So I would leave it up to Sorare gods, and obviously, if you look at your son and you think of that Cap 240 win, you think of the threshold that son has brought in for you, it'll make you love that child just a little bit more.
And let's just hope that Muhammad doesn't get jealous. Now, we've got John from the Uluru base camp. He said, hey, boys, love the pod. Been tuning in for a couple of months now. I'm 36 years old and single, and I'm desperate. I really want a girlfriend, but the only thing I'm interested in is Sorare. What can I possibly talk about on a date without putting them off? Tough one.
Ooh, that is a tough one. We all know what it's like to constantly be bringing up Sorare in social situations. It's the first thing that comes to mind whenever I want to say anything. I'm always trying to bring it back to thresholds. I'm trying to bring it back to super rares. How can I possibly tie in the collection bonus into, a conversation, especially on a date? So, look, I think, unfortunately, there's nothing aphrodisiacal. There's no aphrodisiac. Nothing is an aphrodisiac.
What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Sorare is not an aphrodisiac.
Mate, speak for yourself. I've got a Burak Yilmaz poster in my room, and let me tell you, the lady's likey.
Okay, well, look, she doesn't love you if she doesn't love Sorare, then she probably won't love you. So I think you've just got to lean into it. I think you're right, Simon. I think you're absolutely spot on.
Now, last one here, Ulster, last bit of mail. This one comes from Jaden Smith. He said, boys, why do none of my friends want to talk about the economic, environmental, and social status of KV Mechelen FC? Tough one, that is.
It's because they're cunts.
So right. All right. That was it. Thanks.
Okay. Alrighty, I think it's time for some buy low, sell highs. What do you reckon?
I let the stocks decide my mood. Fuck! Damn it! Wait, is green good? Green's good? Okay, never mind.
Let's knock it off.
Let's knock it off. All right.
I was going to say let's f*** this puppy, but I thought that's a bit much.
Enough profanity for one episode.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Daddy's sharing screen. Okay. All right. Let's start with a few buy lows. Okay. Can you see my screen, Simon?
I can. Hello, old friend. I've missed you.
He is an old friend. He is an old friend. Look, I was thinking today, and I mean, again, I do not recommend in any way, shape, or form that you go out and buy MLS players with the intention of flipping them for more at the start of next season. Not a good idea.
You're about to do that, aren't you?
I'm about to do that, though. Exactly. But that is not to say that if you want to play America next year, that there's not some bargains available. You know, these may not, prices might go off a cliff completely by the start of next MLS season. We don't know. But if you're just in it to buy some quality players and you want to really smash America during the off-season, I think Walker Zimmerman is an absolute bargain at the moment. I think he's injured at the moment, but he's quality, and I think he's one of those players that he's 30 years old. He's MLS till he dies. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. He's contracted with Nashville for quite some time. And, you know, he's decisive, dangerous. He's one of the best players in the team. And, yeah, if you're starting to think about maybe building up an America squad for this season or next season, I think Walker should be on the list.
I don't know, man. He's kind of got Saudi energies. Big old Walker Zimmerman rolling around in Qatar.
You reckon? Walker Zimmerman, you know, centre-back for Al Khitab? Maybe. We'll see. Okay, is actually a real. I've just realised that these are all blasts from your past, Simon, and it was not intentional. Next one, you may remember this.
Get
beautiful
the popcorn.
French gent.
Hello, my son.
Flavian, old Flavian. So, Flavian, as you will remember, kind of fell down the pecking order at Rennes. He has just moved to Samsunspor in the Turkish Super League. Not a fantastic team by any stretch, but look, a lot of the teams in the Turkish Super League aren't fantastic teams. So as long as they're avoiding your Fenerbahce's, your Galatasaray's, these guys could do okay. Made his debut on the weekend, got an assist against Galatasaray, so not a bad start for Flavian there. And I just feel like a player of his quality in Turkey should do really well. So at 0.036 for his rare, 0.25 for his super rare, I reckon play on.
It's probably not smart to just make a snap decision, but I would really like a Flavian Tate. I guess it's why people always go back to ex-girlfriends, it's the comfortability of what you know. But him in Turkey, I really rate that. Main man, Ulster.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go back to your old ex-girlfriend, Flavian Tate.
Yeah, I mean, he's hurt me.
He fits like a glove.
Yeah, let's not put that under the carpet. He has hurt me in the past, but I'm ready to hurt again.
He's a changed man. He's Turkish now. Anyway, okay, and another one that, again, I forgot completely that was in your gallery is old boy Oliver Zelenica. So, Oliver was rumoured to go somewhere. I will edit that in post. He was rumoured to go somewhere in the off-season, didn't go. Plays for Varazdin, who are kind of like a mid-table team in the Croatian Super League. But look, I think at the moment, goalkeepers are at a bit of a premium, especially good challenger goalkeepers. They're either playing for teams that are terrible, like Eupen, or, Volendam, who are just getting pumped 5-0 every week. Or they're really expensive. So this is a kind of like a bit of a sweet spot in the challenger realm. 0.28 for his rare at the moment. And look, he does okay. He's got pretty good AA. You can see there against Hajduk Split, he got 60 without a clean sheet. Keeps a clean sheet pretty regularly and can get into those dark greens for you. So I think if you're looking for a challenger goalkeeper, I think this guy is probably the best of the cheaper options. And if he does move back to club I mentioned earlier that I'm going to insert, I think that'd be a good move for him as well. So, yeah, bit of upside with old Oliver.
It's always good to see an old friend doing well.
Alrighty, well, That's it. Okay, well, that brings me now to my sell haze as we go in. We're in the Matrix right now. Okay, so this one's going to be controversial, but it was going to happen at some point. Big Lenal. Big conspiracy theory Lenal.
Don't get me
at some
started.
point.
You unzip me.
At some point, the corruption's got to end. At some point, there's going to be an investigation, and people are going to stop just falling over as he waltzes past them. At some point, no. Conspiracy aside, I think everyone last weekend, especially all the Messi owners would have been rudely. Their morning coffee would have been rudely disrupted by the news that Lionel Messi was not going to go and play against Atlanta on the weekend. He was going to stay home and eat the most atrocious-looking pizza you've ever seen. Which, quick segue on the pizza, everyone's, myself included, giving the pizzeria a lot of shit. And I'm sure it's probably been the worst week of that pizzeria's life to have the Twitter world ablaze with hate. But I will stand up for the pizzeria in that I'm certain that's not the normal pizza they make. I'm certain that Lionel Messi, he's a professional footballer, he's probably a bit of a health freak, and he said, can you give me a large margarita pizza, hold the cheese, hold all the good stuff, just put a bunch of tomato on there and the odd olive. That's all I need. So they've been like, all right, it's Lionel Messi, we're going to make it for him. And as a result, I feel like they're probably, getting a little bit too much hate.
Nick Manette.
It's pretty great. 100%.
Cool. All right,
back to Lionel.
Going back to Lionel Messi.
Yeah.
I always, wait for some Simon response, and if I get 10 seconds of dead air time, I'll crack on. No, but more seriously, I think last week was just a good reminder that although he is the GOAT and he's going to score you 100 pretty much every week, there's going to be random weeks where they just go, oh, we're just going to rest him because, it's turf or, we've got a game coming up and we don't want to hurt our boy. That's going to happen from time to time. So, I don't know. It's one of those ones where I feel like, if he misses another game, his price might drop down a little bit more. If the conspiracy stops for a couple of games, his price might drop down a little bit more. So Lionel Messi, bit of a controversial one, but I don't like having players in my gallery that I'm not 100% certain they're going to start, and I feel like there might be a little bit of doubt with Lionel at the moment.
I do agree, 100%. I would just say, to play devil's advocate, I guess you could almost say the same about every top-tier player in Europe as well at the moment, obviously with Champions League going on and all the rotation that's probably going to be happening around that. But, yeah, I definitely see your point.
It's a good point. Okay, this week's Sell Hay, every good player in Europe. Look, the Sell Hays are always a bit of a struggle. Sometimes they're more obvious than others. I will admit I was struggling a little bit this week. Okay, next one we got on the list is Christian Romero. Obviously, gave him a bit of a shout out earlier. He's had some big scores to start the year. Big old 100 there with a clearance off the line for Argentina. Scored a goal against Burnley. He's on fire. Scored a goal against Brentford as well. This is just one of those ones where unless it could be that just Ange Ball has completely changed the way the team plays and he might be just an absolute weapon all year. But I do look at these scores from last year and I am a little bit terrified of him reverting to the mean. And I think, 0.22, if we look at his price graph from last year when he was kind of, not as good. Let's have a look here. Yeah, so he's shot up in obviously this year, but, 0.06, 0.07, that's kind of where he was last year. So if he does revert to his kind of normal scores, there could be quite a significant drop-off in his price. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, take the money and run.
Mad. Alrighty, look, we're almost running out of time, but Simon, the international break may not have yielded you diddly shit in terms of Sorare output, but you still had your eye closely on all the games that were going on. You've got some shitters for us.
Look, my shitters just go out to the people I mentioned at the start of the pod. I've actually got to go run. I've got to go to my netball game now, so I've got to wrap up.
Okay, cool. My shitters are the whole teams from before. Okay, I did not realize you'd already. All right, well, enjoy your netball game, Simon. I'm glad you've got your priorities straight. Big game for the netball team, is it?
First game we're actually playing. It's a social comp with friends, which makes it a little bit less sad and cool.
Okay. Well, look. Good luck, I guess. We'll cut the podcast short there. Sorry, listeners at home. Simon's got a netball game, so too bad, so sad. We'll see you next week.
All right, well, look, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Obviously, a little bit of a different show this week, talking about A-League and some sort of non-Sorare relevant topics. But, it's been great to have Sorare relevant in Australia once again. The Australian Twitter community, we're a small but strong one, and everyone's been super excited. It's all looking positive, looking forward to a run of regular fixtures, hopefully, and potentially buying some limiteds before our next ep, which is exciting.
Amen. Looking forward to it. And I'm going to go and sit myself in front of the couch and watch Melbourne City pummel the shit out of some low-Asian team.
Let's do it. All right, we'll catch you next week, guys. See you, mates.